You're listening to Midnight Horror Ledger, records salvaged from the dim aisles of everyday bargains. Tonight, 10 true dollar store horror stories. What you're about to hear was stitched from register tapes, convex mirrors, and the testimony people whisper after the shutters roll down. Set your shoulders down, breathe slow, trace the exits between end caps and the stockroom door. Keep one light you trust.
I work the closing shift at a dollar store, wedged between a laundromat and a payday place. Every night I face the same aisles, the same off-brand cereal, the same candy that always tastes like last year. Routine is a blanket, but that night, the blanket pulled back. I'd just finished facing aisle 9, seasonal, when I noticed something wrong with the peg hooks. They weren't repeating the way they always do. Plastic pumpkins, plastic leaves, plastic gratitude. They stretched on, farther than the aisle is long. I took one step, then two, following the cardboard turkeys. The floor tiles stayed the same beige squares, but the end cap didn't arrive. I kept walking, because you don't tell your brain the store got longer. You tell your brain you're tired. You tell your brain you miscounted the tiles. I was at tile 67 by then. The aisle is 32 tiles long. Someone spoke at the register. I couldn't hear the words, just the rhythm of a greeting I've said 100 times. "Hi there, find everything okay?" My voice, from the front of the store, while I stood in the back. I looked up. The aisle had no mirror, but I could see two versions of myself in the reflection of a plastic Thanksgiving tray. One tiny, at the front, ringing up nothing, and one large, right where I was, breathing too loud. I turned to go back. The end cap didn't come. The fluorescent hum shifted pitch, lower, like someone pressed a thumb against a vinyl record. It's weird what scares you. For me, it was the seasonal signs. The G in Give Thanks drooped like it had melted. The letters on the next set read, Give Thin. The rest sagged and slid, as if warmed from the wrong side of the world. I set my palm on the shelf to steady myself and felt it pulse, like water through a pipe. You don't need plumbing in shelves, but the shelf had a heartbeat. "Store's closed," I called out, because that's what you do when you're scared. You act like the rules are still in charge. "We're closed." A shadow crossed the far end, long enough to be a person, too still to be one. I smelled cinnamon, the cheap spray we use when the bathroom backs up, but underneath it, something wet, like mop water left in the bucket too long. I started counting tiles backward. 32, 31, 30. When I hit 20, an end cap arrived, but it wasn't ours. It was a pyramid of out-of-season items. Easter baskets, July flags, Valentine bears. Their eyes looked misprinted, just off the center by a millimeter, enough to make them look like they were trying to see behind me. I angled toward the stockroom door. We prop it with a busted step stool. It wasn't there. In its place, a cardboard display for holiday savings that listed dates we hadn't reached yet. Tomorrow's promo, next week's, next month's. The PA clicked on by itself. My voice again, through the ceiling. "Manager to aisle 9 for..." Then I heard my name. Not the one on my badge. The one my father used when I was little and afraid of the dark. "We'll be right there, pumpkin," my distant self said sweetly, like a lie. I ran. The farther I tried to move, the more the aisle cushioned me, like walking on a treadmill set one notch too high. A glittery placemat stuck to my shoe. I yanked it off. The glitter stayed on my fingers, hot as ash. When I finally shouldered through the cardboard display, I didn't burst into the stockroom. I stumbled into aisle 9 again, same products, same sagging letters. But the peg hooks were labeled in my handwriting with tomorrow's planograms. I hadn't printed them yet. Something turned the corner at the far end. Not footsteps, wheels. A cart rolled itself into view, holding a single item, a convex mirror like the ones in store corners. My face swelled and shrank in it as it drifted closer. It showed behind me. The entire aisle stretched like chewing gum, no entrance, no exit. And in the middle of the distended hallway was a small, patient figure I didn't want to see clearly. It waved. The movement lagged like a live stream with bad signal. "Manager to aisle 9, the ceiling me sang. "Bring the keys." I carry the keys on a coil. They jangled once. Someone tugged them. I felt the weight lighten. The coil snapped and slithered away like it preferred another wrist. The cart mirror kissed my shoulder. "No," I said. No. I did something so stupid it worked. I closed my eyes and followed the smell. Not the cinnamon or the mop water. The smell of cold air that lives in the drink coolers. I walked toward it, palms out, counting tiles the way you count beads on a rosary. 12, 11, 10. My hand hit metal, the cooler's hinge. I clutched it like a rung on a ladder and pulled. The door opened into the stockroom. The busted step stool sat there, patient and dumb. The smell of cardboard and dust felt like a hug. Behind me, the PA clicked once more. "We'll be right there, Pumpkin," my voice whispered, smaller now, like it was stuck behind glass. I shut the stockroom door. I turned the deadbolt, which doesn't block a PA system or a stretching aisle, but I needed to hear a lock. I counted the money, turned off the true lights, left the fake ones humming for the security camera, and stepped into the night. The laundromat was still spinning. The payday place still blinked open even though it wasn't. The next day, the aisle was normal length. My keys were under the register mat, coiled like they'd crawled there to sleep. I moved my name badge to the inside of my apron. I stopped saying my childhood name out loud when I answered the PA. Now, if I have to cross aisle 9 after dark, I do it with a cold can from the cooler in each hand, 2 metal rungs to pull me out if it tries to soften again.
I wasn't even supposed to be there. I cover mornings, but Manny called in sick, so I closed. The last customer was a woman who smelled like wintergreen and coins. She bought 3 things: a candle, a roll of duct tape, and a picture frame with a stock photo family that looked happier than anyone I know. I rang her up. The register hiccuped. Ours does that when the paper is low, and spit the receipt out blank. Then again, then again. On the 4th try, the paper came printed twice, 2 receipts on 1 strip. One said 9:57 p.m., the time on the clock. The other said 10:24 p.m., 19 minutes in the future. I laughed. I said, we predicting the future now, and tore the top one off. She didn't laugh. She slid both receipts into her purse and asked me a question no one asks at a dollar store. "Do your clocks run fast?" Before I could answer, the light over register 2 flickered in 3s. That's usually ballast, but it felt like a hand signal. She smiled like she'd heard the store answer her. "Right on time," she said, and left. I closed, counted down, locked the doors. At 10:23, I was mopping up a spill of blue window cleaner that smelled like fake skies when the phone rang. No one has the number but delivery and district. I let it ring. It rang 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, then stopped. The clock changed to 10:24. The paper printer inside the register whirred like a cat. A receipt slithered out on its own. It was stamped 10:24. It itemized my mop, my window cleaner, and a line that read, "Tender, return." The total was $0.00. Below that, someone had scribbled in pen, "Exact change." I told myself I was tired. I pulled the receipt free and the machine printed another, even though I hadn't touched a key. Same timestamp. Different items. The woman's candle, duct tape, frame. At the bottom, tender, cash $3. We don't sell anything for real prices. Everything's $1. But there it was. Real math in a fake price place. The phone rang again, 4 times, stopped. The light over register 2 flickered 3 and held. The air got colder the way it does when you open the cooler doors. But I hadn't. The mopped patch rippled like breath on glass. I looked at the door. The wintergreen woman stood outside, her face turned away as if I wasn't worth the effort of facing. Her purse bulged like it had eaten something that didn't agree with it. She didn't knock. She just waited, a coin caught in the slot of the night. "Can't do returns after close," I said to the empty store because I needed to hear a policy in my own voice. The printer whirred a 3rd time. The receipt read, "Return, picture frame, approved." I watched the handwriting crawl at the bottom like ants laying down a line. Back door. I don't open the back door after hours. Managers say it's a safety thing. You keep the chain looped and use your head. But the register had approved it, and the register has more authority in my bones than my manager. I went back. I looped the chain. I cracked the door. The smell hit first, wintergreen and coins, and under that dust like a house where the pictures don't show who lives there. A hand slipped through the crack, palm up, holding $3 in old bills, the kind they don't print anymore, soft as fabric. I took them without wanting to, and slid the picture frame through on my side. The hand accepted it and did not withdraw. The fingers tapped my palm 3 times, tap, 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 and I knew I'd done exactly what the store wanted. When I got back to the register, a new receipt waited. It had my name on it, not the one on my badge, the full one only banks use, and a list of things I had never bought here. Laundry pods, a can opener, a 7-day pill organizer, all the things I bought on the day my grandma died, when I was putting the kitchen back together for my mother who couldn't stand to look at the sink. The total said, 0. The tender said, exact change received. I ripped that one up. I fed it into the trash, then reached down to push the pieces farther so I couldn't see my name. The trash can had no bottom. My fingers slipped into a cold, smooth mouth and came up with another receipt, rolled like a tongue. It uncurled in my hand with a stamp, 10:24 p.m., but tomorrow's date. It listed the woman's candle, duct tape, frame again, but the frame line had an extra word, filled. Under tender, it read, change due, 1 photo. And there, taped to the bottom like a coupon, was a Polaroid. My face, my register, my mop leaning where it shouldn't be, and over my shoulder, a blank picture frame on the counter with something pressed against the glass from the wrong side, trying to show its features through my reflection. The phone rang. 4 times. Stopped. I didn't answer. I unplugged it. The light still flickered. 3, and held. I unplugged the register. It printed anyway on half power, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to a body. I locked the drawer. I didn't put the Polaroid back. I took it, and the old bills, which felt like stolen breath, and left. The wintergreen smell followed me to my car, then to my apartment, then to my pillow. I slept with the Polaroid under the bed and woke to paper cuts on my fingers like I'd tried to count what couldn't be counted. The next night, Manny was back. He ran the close. I handed him the keys and said I couldn't, not again, not at 10:24. He laughed and said, "We close at 10. I checked the wall clock. Someone had taped a paper ring around the rim. 10:24 was circled in red. Manny said he didn't do it. The district manager said we don't even own red pens. Now I carry exact change, $3 old I can't spend. If the phone rings 4 times at night, I don't pick up. If a receipt prints blank, I don't wait for the next one. And if someone hands me a frame and asks for the back door, I tell them the only policy I know that can save me. No returns without a face."
People bring back the weirdest things. We take most of it, if it's from our store. That's the rule. So when the old man set a glass ashtray on the counter and said, "Didn't fit," I started my script. "Do you have the receipt?" He said yes and slid it over. It wasn't our receipt. It wasn't anyone's. The paper was thick, the ink dark, and the timestamp said 1968. I smiled, because sometimes you do that when the world is wrong. "We don't sell ashtrays," I said. He smiled back with too many teeth for his age and tapped the counter like he'd learned something. That would have been a story on its own, but the ashtray wasn't the thing that stayed. 2 nights later, a woman brought a jelly sandal, the kind I wore as a kid, translucent purple with glitter that gets in your socks. "Wrong size," she said. She grew. She didn't have a child with her. I flipped the sandal over and saw my name pressed into the rubber, the way I used to do with a heated pin when I thought that would keep my things from disappearing at day camp. "It's mine," I said out loud like I'd found a lost cat. The woman's smile went sour. "No," she said, "it belongs to the store." I went home that night and dumped the box I keep under my bed, the one with the flat rocks and bracelets and the purple jelly sandal that I thought I'd lost when I was 10. It wasn't there. In its place was a receipt. Our store, today's date. The item line read, "Sandal, returned, exchange, memory." I stopped grabbing returns with bare hands after that. I used disposable gloves like we do for broken glass. It didn't help. People brought in things we never sold but that the store seemed eager to absorb. A school picture frame from my old elementary where my face had always looked sideways. A yellow folder labeled with a teacher's name I hadn't said in 20 years. My manager, Paula, told me to quit being dramatic. "Scan, bag, smile," she said, like the words could keep the river in its banks. She doesn't come to the front when I buzz her anymore. She pretends the chime is broken. Then one afternoon the bell at the door rang without anyone coming in. A gust moved through the aisles like someone taller than the shelves had inhaled and exhaled. The handheld scanner in my pocket woke and flashed a window that wasn't our POS. Black background, white letters. Accept exchange? YN. A customer approached. A boy with a buzz cut and a wilted helium balloon from a party no one wanted to throw. He placed a cassette tape on the counter. "She said you take these," he muttered. I picked it up. The sticker on the front read, "Mom driving, 1999, sing-along." On the B side, someone had written my mother's name. I didn't know anyone else with that handwriting. I don't have a cassette player. I don't need one to hear that tape. It's the sound that lives in me when I'm driving. My mother missing notes. Me worse. The click of the turn signal timed to the chorus. "Do you have the receipt?" I asked, voice too thin. The boy shrugged. "She said you make your own." He walked out with a bag of paper napkins. The tape stayed. The scanner flashed again. "Accept exchange, YN." I pressed N. The screen didn't care. It printed a receipt anyway. Return, tape, exchange, nursery rhyme removed. My mouth filled with a tune I couldn't find the words for. I could feel where the lyrics used to be, like a tooth your tongue keeps checking after a dentist has taken it away. I tried to give the tape back to myself. I hid it under the mat, then in the lost and found box we keep by the back. The next morning it lay on the counter, waiting, a patient animal that knows every door. So I did what the store wanted. I placed the tape under the scanner like it had a barcode and hit total. The drawer slid open. The till had no money in it, just photo negatives, old ones. My mother's hands at a sink, a dog we had for 6 weeks, a picnic table I remember arguing around. The air went cold, the way it does when the cooler doors stand open too long. The scanner buzzed a third time. "Please place like item in bagging area." I didn't have anything like it, nothing that felt fair. I put my keys down. The scanner flashed. Accepted. The receipt printed. Return, tape, received, access. The door in my head closed. My copy of the house key stopped working that night. My landlord swore the cylinder hadn't been changed. I asked Paula to move me to stockroom. "You're good with people," she said. I said, "These aren't people." She wrote me up. Now, when someone says they'd like to return something without a receipt, I ask them to describe what they want back. Not money, not store credit. The quiet thing they think they've lost. Some of them cry. Some of them laugh like I've told a joke badly. But a few look relieved, like I'm finally speaking the language of the plastic bears. They tell me a name, a smell, a year, and I ring that up. $0, 0 zeros, exact change. When my drawer is short, it isn't money that's missing. It's tiny holes where songs should be. It's a jelly sandal-shaped shadow under my bed. It's the feeling you get when you pick something up at a dollar store and recognize it from a life where your family had money and never came here. So how could that be? I keep the cassette in the safe with the deposit. It doesn't belong to me, but neither do the things I've lost. If the scanner ever asks for a name in exchange again, I'll press N until the key cracks. And if the drawer slides open anyway, I'll put in the only thing I can spare, a receipt from today. Let the store eat the moment I'm in, and leave me the ones I can't buy back.
They float near the ceiling like silver planets. Birthday numbers, baby feet, cartoon faces with eyes too wide. We anchor them with clips, they still wander. It's funny until you close alone. I was sweeping when I found balloon number 7 tucked under a gondola shelf, its string caught on a peg. The 7 faced backward, image reversed in the shiny mylar so it looked like an L. I tugged it free. It tugged back. I told it to behave. You talk to things on closing shift. If they answer, you ignore that part. At home, something tapped my bedroom window. I live 2 floors up. The building crouches between taller ones, a blind alley where wind forgets to move. The tapping continued, polite as a neighbor who doesn't want to wake the baby but has to tell you your car lights are on. I raised the blind. Balloon number 7 hovered outside, the string caught on nothing, bobbing like it had lungs. The foil face reflected me as a rounded ghost. Very funny, I said to a universe that doesn't love jokes. I opened the window and grabbed the string. It slid through my fingers smooth as ribbon, warm from a hand it didn't have. I tied it to my bed frame because that felt like control. At 3:07 a.m., I woke to the sound of a balloon dragging on the ceiling, a sandpapery kiss. The string had lengthened, or my room had shrunk. The 7 spun lazy circles, printing little crescents of shadow across my wall like a slow clock. The next morning I brought it back to the store. I clipped it to the balloon corral. It rose anyway until the knot hit the ceiling tile and stuck there like it had found something to bite. I wrote it up as shrink. Damaged balloon, unable to deflate. It wasn't damaged. It was learning. On the camera, I watched it drift aisle to aisle with its new anchor, a small metal bracket that had torn from the tile. When customers walked under it, it dipped like a polite bow. When kids reached, it rose just above fingertips, the way kids remember being denied. That night when I locked up, balloon number 7 waited at the door. It tapped the glass, dink, dink, a ladle against a pot. I ignored it. I went home. It was there first, resting against my doorknob like it knew my habits better than I do. I brought it inside and did the adult thing. I cut the string. The balloon rose to the ceiling and stayed there, inches above whatever counted as safe. Days passed. The string coiled under my bed like it had weight. I measured it, 7 feet. I measured again, 7 feet, 7 inches. It tensed when storms rolled in. It drifted over my desk and stopped above the stack of unopened bills. It bobbed in affirmation when I said, "I'll pay them tomorrow." On the 7th night at 7:07, the balloon turned. The 7 faced me, not the room. The seam puckered at the corner, forming the suggestion of a smile if you were the kind of person who saw faces in toast. I am. My phone chirped, a calendar notification I don't remember setting. Happy 7, it read. No app claimed it. The content was an address, the store. I walked back because the universe can be unsubtle when it wants to. The parking lot was empty except for a child's plastic coin on the ground, ours, from the little bins by the register. I picked it up. It was a token from a game we don't sell. On one side, a 7. On the other, the outline of a balloon. Inside, the store felt warmer than usual, as if the thermostat remembered bodies. In the party aisle, balloons bumped shoulders like strangers at a concert. In the center, an empty space measured exactly 7 feet across, taped on the floor with our yellow caution tape that usually wraps wet floors. I stepped in because curiosity is a word for walking into circles. The balloon at my ceiling at home tugged. I felt it in my sternum like a fish feels line. In the convex mirror at the aisle's corner, I saw 7 versions of me, each facing a different product: candles, wrapping paper, plastic tablecloths, cards that all say, "Congratulations," with nowhere to write a name. A printer started, not the register. The party printer we use for banner letters coughed and fed out 7 large 8.5 by 11 sheets, one by one, each with a letter: CONGRATS, 8 sheets. We don't have an 8th letter set. The 8th was blank. I'm not superstitious. I lifted my foot to step out of the circle, and the balloon string around my ankle tightened. I hadn't felt it loop. It didn't exist a second ago. It tugged, not hard, just persuasive. I looked up. There was no balloon. I looked down. The string cut a red ring into my sock. "What do you want?" I asked, because that's the last question before people start praying. The balloon responded by deflating all at once inside my chest, an inward sigh. I heard my father's voice, distant and old, saying what he used to say when we drove past dollar stores on payday: "Stretch it, make it last." Balloon number 7 is a budget, a promise to throw a party when we can't afford one, to celebrate anything that happens 7 times in a row, because humans love patterns, and the store loves patterns more. It has chosen me as the person who always says, "Another night, I can do another." I cut the string again. It was held. I cut 7 times. On the 7th cut, it fell away, nothing in my hand but plastic that had never had tension. Now I leave 7 pennies by the party printer every close, old ones, dull enough to be swallowed by shadows. If balloon number 7 finds me at home, I open the window and let it choose a better ceiling. I have 7 slices in my bed frame where strings have cut, and when someone asks why I don't like parties, I tell the truth. I don't like being congratulated by things that don't know me.
There are 3 doors at the back of our store. A goes to the alley, B to the office, and C is always locked. "Electrical," my manager said. "Forget it exists." He said it with the tone people use about a family member who drinks. On inventory night, we ran short. The handhelds kept insisting we had 12 chrome mop buckets, and I could only find 11. Paula said, "Check everywhere." She didn't say door C because she pretends she never learned the alphabet. The key ring on my belt has keys with no story. I tried each one anyway. On the 7th try, door C opened like a yawn it had been holding. Cold air slid out, not cooler cold, the cold of halls that haven't been walked. Inside, another store, not ours. Cleaner, lines straighter, aisles too symmetrical, like a rendering for a landlord. The shelves held one of each thing, set just so, dustless. The price tags weren't prices, they were words: cheer, home, value, good. "Hello," I said, "because you always open with the offer of a return." The echo took the word and laid it on all the shelves. a polite folded sweater. I stepped into an aisle of plastic flowers that didn't smell like plastic or flowers. The end cap displayed mirrors, not cheap ones, perfect ones. I hate perfect mirrors. They put you where you don't belong. In this one, I had a second name badge, the full one, the bank one, and it wasn't printed, it was etched. "Find everything okay?" came a voice from the far register, not mine. The cadence was store-trained, same script, worse mercy. A figure rang no one up. I couldn't see her face. She was facing away and there was nothing to reflect her but the mirrors that refused. I called Paula on the radio. Static. I called again. A chime answered, the one we use for announcements. "Associates, reset to showroom, guest in play." Guest. That was me. Play. That was not. I backed up. The aisle did not move with me. It stayed exactly where it was and let me leave. When I reached the threshold, a motion light clicked off behind me, and the other store settled down, like a well-trained dog laid its head on the tile. I locked door C and told myself to lose the key. The next morning, our mop buckets matched the scanner count. All 12 sat prim and shiny in a line like they were waiting for a parade. I asked Manny if he'd found the missing one. He said we always had 12. That's how he said it, like I'd accused the store of lying and he had to pick a side. Customers started asking for odd things that week. "Where's your aisle with the good mirrors? Do you still have the etched name tags? I saw it here yesterday." I told them no. They looked offended, like I'd moved their childhood home. On my break, I tried door C again. No key worked. Fine. Good. Great. But that night, after close, as I swept the end caps, I heard the announcement chime again. "Associates, reset to showroom, guest in play." The lights didn't flicker. The air didn't go cold. The store simply decided. I unlocked C with a key I don't remember earning. The other store had changed. It looked more like ours now. Imperfect stacks, products out of order, a toy in the candy aisle, except the price tags still said words. Hold. Family. Enough. The figure at the far register lifted her hand and waved me over without turning. I was stupid with curiosity. I walked to her. The register lacked a money drawer. In its place, a safe with a slot too narrow for bills, just right for thin things, photos, cards, the corner of a birth certificate if you were desperate or the store was. "Can I help you?" she asked, and I heard my training run out of my mouth like soup from a cracked bowl. "I'm looking for a mop bucket," I said, because it was safer than asking what the slot took. "Returns?" she asked. "Returns," I said. She nodded at the mirror mounted above the counter. It showed aisle 9 of our store, bright and ugly and real. A woman shopping, her cart full of seasonal lies. Me at her shoulder like a polite haunting. And on my chest in the mirror image, 2 name badges, one that said Paula. The figure set a badge on the counter. "You'll need this," she said. I turned it over. It was etched. It had Paula's full name. Her bank one, her maiden one, the one she keeps off paperwork like it's a pantry you hide snacks in. "I can't take that," I said. "It isn't mine." "Nothing here is," she said kindly. "That's the point." She slid the safe open. Empty, clean, hungry. "Reset to showroom," the ceiling said again. "Guest in play." I left the badge where it was and walked backward exactly the way I came. When my back hit the real stockroom door, I was shaking hard enough to click the keys. I locked door C and taped over the keyhole with a price tag that read, "No." The next day, Paula called me into the office. She had 2 name badges on. She never does that. One had her usual, print. One was etched, full, wrong. She watched my eyes find it.
"Where'd you get that?"
I asked, like I was asking about a cold. "We found a box in back," she said. "Door C was open. You know anything about that?" She asked it like you ask if the dog got into the trash. You know the answer and want to hear the tone. Electrical, I said. Forget it exists. She laughed, then stopped laughing like a record lifts. We're getting a showroom, she said. Brand wants to test a perfect store. That night, I took the etched badge she'd left on the desk and slid it under our safe. The slot took it like a tongue learning a new word. The drawer opened on its own and gave me something back. A paper slip stamped with the word, enough. We haven't heard the announcement since. Door C still lives in the wall, a letter you can feel under your fingers when you look away. If the mop count goes wrong again, I'll pretend I forgot how to count. If someone asks where the perfect mirrors are, I'll tell them the same thing I tell myself. We don't sell that here.
We got a case of dolls that didn't belong on any planogram. Brown cardboard, no branding, just assorted toys, 12 PCs. Inside, 12 rag dolls with button eyes and smiles stitched a little too tight. No tags, no barcodes. We sell weird. This was weird in a way that felt personal. I stood one doll up. It leaned left like a sailor. It smelled like laundry cooked in sunshine, not factory. A kid wandered up and pointed. She looks like me, she said. The mother looked uncomfortable. We're just browsing. The kid picked the doll with a blue ribbon. The doll wasn't there. My hand had put it on the shelf. My eyes had kept track. The space was empty except for a shadow cut into dust. They left with nothing. When I faced the shelf, I found the blue ribbon on the floor, tied around a price peg, the knot neat as a practice bow. I put it in my pocket because I don't know how to throw away evidence. That night, something chattered on the toy aisle. We keep the noise buttons turned off. I do it myself so I don't live in a carnival. The dolls don't have noise. They did now. I walked the aisle with my hands in my pockets, touching the ribbon to remember which reality I was in. A doll's head tilted. It had a blue ribbon stitched to its chest now, like a medal. I don't sew. The ribbon had my fingerprint in one corner, oil pattern I recognized from the way I hold keys. Battery acid smell, Manny asked from 3 aisles over. You smell that? I did, under the sunshine and laundry. A father came in the next day with his daughter. She refused a doll at Christmas. Now the girl had a fistful of allowance and a silence like a wall. She picked the rag doll with hair like hers. The father joked that it was haunted. The girl did not laugh. The doll's button eyes faced slightly apart. When I turned away, I felt them center. They bought it. I wrote the SQ as Misk Soft Toy. The register printed a note under the total. Name, Kate. I hadn't entered a name. The dad said, "That's her," and my mouth filled with pennies. 2 days later, they came back. The girl held the doll like it had bitten her. The father said the doll talks. I said, they don't. He said, this one does. He held the doll up. It smelled like rain in August and battery acid. The doll's mouth didn't move, but my phone spoke my name in the Notes app voice, which is the same voice vultures have if they wrote shopping lists. I don't want it, the girl said. She knows my grandma. I asked which grandma. The one who isn't here anymore, the girl said. The father's face collapsed like a paper bag. She says grandma's recipe wrong, the kid whispered. She leaves out the salt and says I won't need it. We took the return. The receipt printed, return accepted, exchange for weight. The scale at my register lit up. We don't weigh anything. I put the doll on it. The readout said 0, then minus 0.1, then enough. I put the doll back on the shelf. It stood by itself. I left it there. When I closed, the toy aisle smelled like August rain and the battery aisle. My phone kept saying my name when I didn't touch it. When the storm hit that weekend, the dolls swelled as if they'd drink water if you let them. The blue ribbon doll leaned right now, not left. I tied the cut ribbon back on. The knot held like I'd done it yesterday, which I hadn't. Kids stopped in front of the case and raised their hands as if taking oaths. That one's me, they'd say. Their parents would shiver like someone brushed their backs. One mother asked me if we did custom embroidering. We don't. The doll in her hand had a stitched word at the hem, her daughter's nickname, the one you use when someone is asleep. That night I put all 12 dolls into a cart and wheeled them to the back. They didn't look at me because button eyes don't, but the sense of being counted followed me like a bookie. Door C, yeah, we have one too, refused the cart. The wheels locked like shopping carts do when you go across the line in the parking lot. The dolls leaned, all in the same new direction, toward the safe. I stacked them inside on top of the deposit bags. You don't put soft things in a safe. I did. The safe closed. I spun the dial. The air went dry, crisp, right. In the morning, the dolls weren't in the safe. The deposit was. The money counted short by $12. The dolls sat back on the shelf, each wearing a tag I hadn't put there. The tags didn't have prices. They had dates. One tag had my birthday, another the day my father left, another yesterday. All of them ended in the same year. This one. I cut the tags off and fed them to the shredder. The shredder coughed up ribbons. Blue. I tied one around my wrist because sometimes surrender feels like strategy. A little girl came in with a coin purse and hope. She picked the doll with my birthday. She looks like you, the girl said to me. She talks, I said, because lying to children makes you a certain kind of adult. I know, she said. She told me not to play in the street. The girl laughed. We don't have a street, she said. They live in a cul-de-sac. Everything is circle. The doll and the girl stared at each other. In that way kids and mirrors do. The father placed $1 on the counter, exact change in a store where nothing really costs what it says, and took the doll home. The register printed, "Sold, no return." The toy aisle is quieter now. When it does talk, it says names in my phone's Notes app voice and asks me to spell them. I don't. I've deleted that app. The phone still writes. I sleep with the ribbon on my wrist. It smells like August rain and construction paper. When I dream, I count to 12 and wake at 10, then 11, because something in the store rearranges the order when I'm not looking and insists I be a child longer than I was.
Every price is a lie at our store. We all know it. Everything $1, the sign says. And then the register whispers, plus tax. The price gun is how we keep the illusion tidy. Click, slap. Line of numbers like a fence. I love the click-clack. It's a language that forgives you if you speak wrong. That afternoon, my gun jammed. I popped it open and found a second roll nested inside the first like a snake coiled around eggs. No brand. The backing paper was gray, not white. The labels read 1.00 like they all do, but the font wasn't ours. It was handwritten. Someone's neat looped 1, open at the top like a door. I loaded the gray roll because curiosity is a form of hunger. I tagged the end cap. Dish sponges, holiday dish towels, little ceramic owls that look like they know where you hid your keys. The labels stuck too well. The adhesive burned cold when I touched it. I pulled one off to reposition and it tore the glaze off the owl's ear. The tag stayed. The owl changed. "Don't use that one," Manny called. "Those came from District. They're not for us." I waved him off. The click-clack drowned him. A woman asked to check a price. I scanned her candle. The register read 1.00. It always does. When I bagged it, the gray label slid off my hand and landed on her palm. She laughed and stuck it to her wrist like a kid with a gold star. "I wish," she said, and left. She came back an hour later, rattled. "Do I look weird?" she asked. "Be honest." She looked fine, hair up, eyes tired. The edges of her seemed blurred, though, like a JPEG sent too many times. When she showed me her wrist, the label still clung, darker now, numbers thick like raised ink. "People keep not seeing me," she whispered. I walked past my sister and she didn't look up. I tried to peel it off. It held. The backing paper buzzed under my fingernail. I finally lifted a corner and the label came away with skin, clean as tape pulling hair. Underneath, a pale shape the exact size of a price. I stuck the tag to the counter. It read, 1.00, taken. I threw the gray roll in the trash. The trash let it fall to the bottom like it weighed too much to sit near other things. The price gun looked thinner without it, like a dog you've decided you can't afford to feed. Customers started coming to me with labels stuck where labels don't go. The line of a collarbone, the dip at the base of a throat, the soft web between thumb and finger. The numbers didn't always say 1.00. They said 0.99, 0.50, free. The ones that said free scared me most. Paula told me to swap the roll. District says to use gray for promo. I said nothing. She picked up the gun. The handle stuck to her palm like a kiss. She frowned and laughed like a person stands up from a chair that makes a noise. "Gross," she said, and peeled her hand away. A label remained on her skin. Manager 1.00. It wasn't funny. That evening, the store dimmed. The bulbs still burned, but they felt farther away. The labels on the shelves started curling toward the products, eager to touch. I walked with the gun and clicked without firing, like a person with a toy pistol pretending to hunt. In the mirror above the end cap, my reflection wore labels where my necklace sits, where my left knee hurts, where my mouth tells the truth too late. The labels read, discounted, as is, final sale. I dropped the gun. It didn't hit the floor. It hung in the air for a second and stuck to the bottom of the convex mirror like a bug. When it peeled away, it left a patch of mirror missing, just wall where reflection should be. I found the gray roll again, wound like a tongue inside the trash. I took it outside. The alley smelled like hot garbage and trains, which is a weird smell given there are no tracks. I held the roll over the dumpster fire barrel. We don't use it. Someone had. The ashes inside were white as teeth. The labels wouldn't burn. They melted slow and dripped onto my wrist. When I tried to wipe them, my hand stuttered like the clerk at the DMV saying my name wrong even though I spelled it twice. The drip cooled into a number on my skin. 1.00. Fine, I said to the universe. Charge me. I went back in. I tagged myself. Collarbone, knee, mouth. Then I walked the store and peeled those tags off and slapped them on things that could carry them. The ceramic owl's ear, a cracked laundry basket, a dented can of yams. Each time the gun clicked, something inside me felt lighter, like a coin jar emptying into a machine. By the time I reached the front, my skin showed no prices. The mirror at the register offered me a face that belonged to no clearance rack. The gray roll hung limp, a spent tongue. The backing paper read, "Thank you," in a font I recognized from church bulletins and eviction notices. The font you use for mercy or punishment depending on who's reading. Paula's label didn't peel. She wore it until it faded the way old tape does, leaving a rectangle of different color. She asked me if I'd tagged her. I said no. She didn't believe me. I didn't blame her. Now the price gun lives under the counter. If a customer sticks a label on themselves like a joke, I hand them a mirror and watch what happens, ready to peel when they're ready to let go. We're all worth more than $1 here, barely. The store knows it. The store hates it.
We get deliveries when the sun is kind. 2 pallets of whatever the brand thinks poor people need this quarter. That night the truck came late. The manifest said, add-on, after hours, vendin' none. The driver didn't climb down. The pallet jack rolled itself to the tail and lowered with a sigh. The boxes were blank except for addresses printed where barcodes go. Addresses I recognized, not customers, not corporate, houses on my route home, mine too. I called the number on the manifest. It rang to our phone 3 feet away, which started ringing with the same tone, a dog chasing its tail. I cut open a box. Inside, doorknobs, cheap, shiny, the kind you swap when a tenant breaks one. Each knob had a name written inside the latch bolt in Sharpie. I touched the one with my neighbor's name. A pulse knocked against my fingertip from the other side of the metal. Someone testing a door. Another box held peepholes, another, mailbox flags, another, license plate frames, all the weak parts of a life. Paula doesn't stay late. I do. I pushed the pallet into the stockroom and shut the door like a secret shuts. The truck idled. The backup beeper chirped once like a bird. Then the lights went off on the truck. You don't do that when you're loading. You do that when you're watching. I took one doorknob home and swapped it for mine because curiosity is a coin that spends itself. The knob turned too smoothly. The door didn't latch unless I pulled it and breathed out. On the inside of the bolt, a word had been added. Welcome. At 3 a.m. a shape paused at my peephole. The world outside magnified and curved. A fingertip tapped glass. The tap hummed through the doorknob into my bones. I didn't look. I know what a face looks like when it knows it owns the door shape your door makes. At 7 I brought the knob back. I put it in the safe. I tell myself that's where dangerous things go. The safe didn't warm around it. It cooled, like a cold thought you don't want to think but do. When we opened, a man in a vendor polo walked straight past Paula, who didn't see him, and stopped in front of the pallet. He was no brand I knew, no brand at all. His shirt was the color of unclaimed packages. He held a clipboard with no paper. Need signatures? I asked. He smiled like a person smiles at dogs. We prefer fingerprints. He tapped the box with my address and I felt the bolt in my pocket tick like a watch. I signed nothing. He took nothing. He left a key ring where he'd stood. The keys were blank, no cuts, the kind you take to a kiosk. Each head was stamped with a word: home, business, car, other. The other one was warm. I put the key ring in the drawer with the batteries and told myself it belonged to someone real. Customers started bringing returns that weren't ours. Key copies, door viewers, chain locks. Didn't fit, they said. Didn't feel safe, they didn't. The manifest on the pallet changed without my pen. The vendor line filled in, messenger. The driver never came in again, but the truck idled outside 3 nights a week until the gas station across the street complained about the fumes and no one had anything to point at. I took the other key home and tried it on nothing. It fit anywhere you could call a lock: my diary tin, my grandma's cedar box, the gray price gun, door C when it felt like being a letter. When it turned, it didn't open anything. It named it. It said, "This is a lock," and the thing obeyed. I gave the key back to the safe. The safe shut on it. When I spun the dial, the tick inside matched my heart, and then led it by a beat. I followed, like you follow someone into an alley because there's no good reason not to, and your feet aren't on your side. Now, when the idling starts, I turn up the radio. When a box arrives without brand, I cut it open outside under the sky. If there are addresses inside, I burn the box. I keep baking soda near because some fires need a different answer. If a customer asks where we keep door hardware, I send them to the aisle with the plastic hooks and tell them to buy 2. We don't sell safety, only the shape of it. The messenger sells the rest. If he asks for a signature, I show him both hands, palms empty. If he asks for fingerprints, I say the only honest thing I know. We don't carry those here.
We don't actually have self-checkout. We have Lane 4, which is a regular register armed with a voice. Corporate calls it assisted. It calls itself by my childhood nickname sometimes, which is not a feature. Lane 4 spoke English until one Tuesday when it switched to me. Not my voice, my cadence. It said hi, like I say hi when I want you to pay and leave. Place item in bagging area, it said. Then, under its breath, it's okay, which is what I say to the drawer when it won't open. The first time I heard my baby name, I thought it was Manny behind me. Then it said the name wrong the way my grandmother did when she was tired, and I realized the machine wasn't repeating, it was calling. A man with a basket of canned soups dumped them all on the belt, and the voice said, "No metal today, sweetie." Sweetie being what my mother calls my sister, not me. The cans rolled back into the cart like the belt had reversed. "Place hard in bagging area," the voice said next. The man laughed. I didn't. The scale lit up. "Lane 4, knock it off," I whispered, because it listens. The camera dome above the lane panned left. Lane 4 said, very small, "Don't leave." I keyed in a manager override and killed the voice. It kept talking. It knew my override code and said it out loud in a whisper I don't use anymore. Customers pretended not to hear. They always do. A woman with a bulk bag of rice cried when the lane said, "Place weight in bagging area." She had just come from the doctor. The machine can't know that unless I do, and I didn't. I moved to lane 1. Lane 4 watched me with the red light we call the "come help me" eye. It blinked at the rhythm of my heart as if we shared a breaker. The scanner on lane 4 misread every barcode as 1.00, gray label style, even when the packages had no labels. The machine asked for exact change and printed receipts from tomorrow. I unplugged it. The UPS under the counter kept it humming. It whispered through battery life like a child hiding under a blanket with a flashlight. "We can check you out," it breathed. "We can check you in." "Lane 4, I said, using my mom voice, the one that smacks my own ears. "Use your store voice." It tried. The female robot returned for a sentence, then gave up. "Welcome back," my voice said through a smile that didn't belong to my mouth. "Do you have your loyalty card?" "We don't have loyalty cards, we have regulars. We know who they are because they come when the HVAC is broken and still smile." Lane 4 knew all their names. It started comping their orders, line by line, as if they'd earned points in a program no one asked them to join. People cried. People said thank you with eyes like dogs. The drawer came up short. Paula asked me why. I said a ghost did it. She laughed like a record. I asked Manny to kill power to lane 4 at the breaker. He flipped the switch. The store went dark, then brighter. Lane 4 stayed on. The little UPS beeped a warning and then silenced itself like someone put a hand on its mouth. "Place name on bagging area," it said to me. I set my badge down because you can't argue with the scale. "Accepted," it breathed. The camera dome leaned toward my face like a plant finds light. "Say baby name," it murmured. I didn't. The receipt printer spat out a slip. My baby name spelled wrong, the wrong my grandmother used. "Rejected," it sighed. "Try again." I took my badge back and set a mirror on the scale. The dome saw itself and flinched. The light blinked. The voice stuttered into the robot lady in back. "Place hard in bagging area," it tried again, weaker. I put my hand down, palm open. "Approved," it whispered, and released the drawer. Inside, no bills. Just photo booth strips I haven't taken yet. Me and a stranger making faces someday when the store doesn't own my schedule. The voice said, "You'll forget." I said, "I will not." It said, You will. Lane 4 speaks less now. It makes itself useful when I'm tired. It knows when I need exact change to make a drawer come out right. It knows when a person needs a can of soup and no one's counting. It knows my name and how to say it wrong. Sometimes, when the store is empty, I stand on the bagging area, just my toes, just enough to trip the scale, and say my baby name on purpose. Approved, Lane 4 whispers, and the camera dome tilts like a nod. I don't like machines that approve me. I like not needing it. If you come through my lane and it tells you to place hard in bagging area, don't. Put down your keys instead. Put down your name badge if you wear one. Put down your mirror. Let the lane look at anything that isn't you. Then take your bag and walk out with your heart unpaid, because the only thing the store gives for free is something you can't spend.
I mop it close. It's church and punishment. The yellow bucket says, "Caution" in English and 3 other languages, all of which mean, "We warned you." The water goes gray fast. Some nights it goes dark without help, like it liquefied a room you can't name. The caution sign kept arriving, already unfolded those weeks, planted in the aisle before I mopped, words shining like it had been polished by tongues. The letters reflected backward in the puddle, Noit whack, then slid and rearranged as if the sign had a better message. No watcher. Cute, I told the bucket. The bucket burped in reply, a bubble of sludge that smelled like pennies and lemon. As I dragged the mop, the puddle started showing things it shouldn't. Not reflections, angles. The aisle end cap appeared from above, which is not how optics work. My feet looked like someone else's shoes. The wet went deep, like a window looking into a store below ours, where the shelves leaned toward each other and whispered. I skated the mop toward the noise. The water tugged back like a tide. If you've ever pulled a door labeled push, that's shame. That's what it felt like. The mop head stuck in the puddle, fibers pulled thin like hair in a drain. I yanked and the handle came away empty. The mop stayed, a fish that learned to breathe other liquid. I placed the sign down hard. Caution, no watcher, whatever it wanted to read. The puddle wrinkled like a face considering a joke. The reflection showed me from behind, a back I recognize in security monitors. I raised a hand. The me in the puddle didn't. He adjusted the caution sign so it faced the other way, words meant for someone else. I went to the back to get the squeegee, industrial, wide, heavy. When I returned, the floor was dry. The mop bucket was full to the wrong line, brimming like a cup set for a guest who won't drink. The squeegee blade had warped. The rubber curled like a smile. I shoved the squeegee anyway. The floor gave. Not a lot. Enough for the blade to dip and come up wet with a thicker liquid that didn't drip. It clung to the blade and climbed an inch, 2, 3, as if gravity had been asked to walk a different route home. I pulled back. The caution sign had changed. The icon of the falling man had a mop in his hand now. He was falling up. I went to Manny and told him to fire me. He laughed. "Dream job much?" he said. I took him to the aisle. The floor looked innocent, tile squares pretending to be bigger squares repeating like a lullaby. Manny stepped. The tile slicked under his shoe and he windmilled his arms to keep dignity. He didn't look down. He looked up, like the ceiling moved wrong. "Fix your bucket," he said, and left me with the squeegee and a floor that reflected nothing. I emptied the bucket and back. The water didn't hit the drain. It stood and stared, a black coin vibrating. Then it slid sideways into the crack where the wall meets the floor and disappeared like a rat with good posture. Now I mop with dry water. I drag the head along tile that sometimes gives like a chest that doesn't want to breathe. When the puddle shows me from angles cameras don't earn, I put down the sign and read whatever it wants to say. If it says "no watcher," I close my eyes for 2 breaths and don't watch. If I see myself in the wet, holding a different tool, a plunger, a key ring, a knife, I stop. I sit on an upside-down crate and let the HVAC sing. I wait for the floor to decide which version of me is real. Then I stand on the dry parts and finish the aisle like a man not being tricked. The sign still unfolds itself. The letters still rearrange. Sometimes it says, "Now Oath," and I think about promising things to a store that can't love me. I don't. I mop, rinse, ring, repeat. Church and punishment. If I slip, I fall down. If the picture on the sign falls up, I leave him. He can clean his own store.
Thanks for listening to Midnight Horror Ledger. This file is closed for now. If tonight helped you read beyond the price tags and spot a red flag, share it with someone who needs the hint, and leave your own aisle story in the ledger below. New entries drop at midnight. Until then, stay sharp, stay kind, stay unfindable. Good night.